Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Hershel, who is going to be the latest character to get awakened in RTS. Now, no visual changes on this character on the right hand side as is the norm. The left side gets that little orange glow that most of all of the awakened characters got. Negan did eventually get it, he didn't have it initially. But there's going to have to be some drastic changes to Hershel's kit to really have some good usability in the main parts of the game, like war and raids and so on and so forth. Otherwise, he's pretty much going to be that faction assault or roadmap character based on him being part of an Atlanta allegiance. That's pretty much all he's going to be used for, which is currently what he's already used for. So whether it'll be worth actually awakening him just to get a bit of a boost is obviously going to be up to you, and we're going to go over his kit just to see what the boosts are. If you see it, level 1440, limit break 3, he has got 30,900 attack, 26,485 defense, and 30,900 HP. If we look at his original stats, you can see the stat balance is pretty much the same, but instead of the attack and defense being quite equal, now it's the attack and the HP. All the stats have been increased, which is obviously nice. It's nicer to have higher stats. There is a bit of a stat increase on some of the more recent mythic characters, but overall I don't think this character can really be used on anything other than a support character on an attack team just based on the stats. The defense is too low, and that's pretty much just the way it is. Everything else remains the same. He's still tough, he's still a medic, he's still obviously a gold mythic character, and he's still part of the Atlanta Allegiance. Now, first up, we're going to check out Hershel's Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Making the Rounds. It's a 66 AP cost rush. Heal 5 teammates by 35% of their max HP for 4 turns. 2 teammates recover from all debilitating effects. Attack a line of enemies for 200% damage each. If we compare it to the original, which had heal 5 teammates by 15% of their max HP for 4 turns, and 2 teammates recover from just stun, the first half of this rush is obviously a massive improvement. The damage has been tacked on, which is nice. It's nice to do a bit of damage in faction assault. If you have, a impair on attack weapon, it will impair the enemy potentially. There is control potential just on attacking characters. It's also just going to do more damage. It's pretty much just as simple as that. His attack stat has been boosted. He would be in an attack team on faction assault, and obviously that would increase his damage overall. The debilitating status effect cleanse is nice because in faction assault in particular there is taunt there, so you will be able to cleanse the taunt that will be on your teammates, whereas right now it can't do that because it's cleansing stun, and I don't think there's any stun potential in that faction assault. Is this usable on an actual proper raid team? Debilitating status effect cleanse is actually very rare on attack right now, and I think we do need more of it. On an adrenaline rush maybe it's a bit too slow, I'm not sure. But being able to cleanse debilitating status effects is very nice indeed. But I think we don't really need this. We need some control. I think if the last part of it added some control instead of like an attack, he could have potentially had some usability. Like, for instance, if it impaired a line of enemies for 2 turns instead of attacking them for 200% damage, I think that would have been obviously nicer overall. But it is what it is. As it stands, I don't think there's been any improvement on this character here for raid purposes, but it's definitely going to be a boost for faction assault. Survivability is not the greatest in the Atlanta Allegiance, and 35% heal for 4 turns is a massive boost for sure. Okay, so here we are attacking, and you've got to imagine some of my characters have debilitating status effects because that is a large part of this Adrenaline Rush, where it will cleanse 2 teammates, but it will also heal everybody for 35% for 4 turns, which you'll see as a buff. It will initially do a 35% heal, and the next turn it will do a 35% heal, and then for the next 2 turns after that. So it's initial plus 3. I'll do the line damage. I don't suspect there's going to be too much damage here. Not too much damage at all. He would need massive multipliers to come in. His attack stat isn't the greatest. He doesn't get any attack buffs, but now you can see the heal. So if I defend on Maggie, some characters might get attacked, and obviously you're going to have attacks coming from the defense team. And now I'm going to get the heal come in, based on the fact that I've got a heal. So survivability for an attack team has been drastically increased. And this is going to help, like I said, a lot in Faction Assault, where the survivability is not that great. Now you can check out the upgrades on the Adrenaline Rush, but these are just for show pretty much. When you claim an Awakened character, they are fully maxed out, so you don't have to spend any resources to get them maxed out. They are completely maxed out instantly, just as the norm. If any of these skills aren't maxed out, you can either contact support, and they should be able to give you the actual resources to max out the character. This is very rare to happen, I believe. It only happened on Negan. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be too crazy for a raid or war situation, but it will definitely increase the potential for your Atlanta attack team in Faction Assault if you are struggling. Sometimes some of my characters do get taken out. I do use Shane lead, and he gets trait damage against the leader, and he gets wrecked pretty hard, and a 35% heal pretty much for the rest of combat, because by the time this goes down, he'll be rushing again. So it'll be constantly 35% heal. It won't be actually too bad when it comes to healing. The debilitating status effect recover is just okay. If Hershel is controlled, obviously he can't recover himself, so he has to, you know, be not controlled by taunt, confuse, so on and so forth, to be able to actually do this, but that's the way it is. The damage is just not great. I don't think they should have added damage. I think it should have been control. It would have been much more like nice. It would have been potentially having better usability in a war situation, which is still very unlikely. But if it, like I said, if it actually impaired a line of enemies for 2 turns, that's much more useful than 200% damage from a character that doesn't have very high attack. That's just my opinion on that. But I think, like I say, some sort of control would have been nice. Or maybe like control plus an attack buff. If he gave a damage roll character 100% attack for 2 turns or 1 turn, it'll be like, yo, he's going to be buffing one of my characters drastically, and he's going to be controlling some enemies. That wouldn't be too terrible. And even then, I wouldn't necessarily say that would even be usable. So it is just the way it is. But yeah, it definitely improvements over the original Hershel. That isn't too hard, but I don't think it's enough just on the Adrenaline Rush for that war situation, that's for sure. Now, the next thing we're going to check out is going to be the signature move. And I'm going to be honest, it'll be very hard not to improve this because the original was so bad. It's called Universal Health. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1. Cooldown of 1 turn, number of uses unlimited. Heal 4 teammates by 50% of their max HP. Attack an enemy for 350% damage. If the enemy had less HP than this fighter, daze the enemy for 2 turns. Now, if we compare it to the original, I'm going to go ahead and say Hershel had the worst signature move in the entire Mythic era for sure. It has an initial cooldown of turn 4, cooldown of 3 turns. That alone is absolutely crazy, but it only heals 4 teammates by 20% of their max HP. It is so bad that I don't think there's a worse signature move. I remember Tough Abraham having quite a long cooldown, or quite a long initial cooldown on his. Maybe it was turn 3 on his, but this is absolutely crazy. Obviously, massive improvements. Turn 1 initial cooldown, cooldown of 1 turn. Just the cooldowns alone is nice, but massive improvement on the HP heal, over doubled, plus a 350% attack, which can also impair an enemy if you have an impair on attack weapon, just like the Rush, so you can potentially utilize that possibility. The last part maybe sounds good, but I don't think it's ever going to really occur. It won't occur against the Faction Assault boss. It won't really occur in a good situation in roadmaps, because only weaker characters will actually have this occur, because his HP is not going to be that high on an attack team. Now, if you were to use him on a defense team, it would never occur pretty much, because he's always going to have higher HP than the attack. It's such a weird situation where the enemy has to have less HP than him. If it was the other way around, where he had to have less HP than enemy, it would occur quite a lot. I think this just straight up should have just dazed an enemy for 2 turns. It isn't that powerful just to daze one enemy for 2 turns, but to add this kind of requirement for it to proc here is not very good in my opinion. So in this situation where I'm attacking this default defense team that I always put up just because it doesn't have too many effects, so you can always see what's going on, only one of these characters has less HP than him, and it's the silver character as the leader. This is problematic. Like, for instance, if I was to use it against this character up here, I do the damage, I'd heal my team, who don't actually need healing off of turn 1, but, you know, that's the way it is. And that's it. Like, I'd only do damage. The daze hasn't happened, the heal hasn't happened, and it's just very, very low amounts of damage. the daze just should have happened. It shouldn't be required to be a certain percentage HP versus Hershel. It's kind of a very bizarre situation there, because with daze you need to get off before the enemy can really do anything, and they're never going to have low HP in that situation. They're never going to have low HP, and if they do, you're probably going to want to nuke them to take them out. Like I say, very bizarre, very unfortunate, but strange enough, still a massive improvement over the original signature move. Now with the signature move, the same sort of deal is going to be happening as the Adrenaline Rush. It's going to be fully maxed out. This one does require something to be upgraded. This is where the potential for there being issues comes in, so just keep an eye on that if you do claim Hershel. I would say that in Faction Assault, it's going to heal people. It's going to do some damage. It's probably not going to daze the enemy that often. You know, I think the enemy would probably have to be at like 2% HP for you to daze them. And you're probably running a deep cuts weapon, which is, you know, a hemorrhage weapon. So they might be there for one turn, if at all. You know, I don't think that daze is ever really going to proc at all. I'd be very surprised if it did, at least in a situation where it would actually be, you know, usable, you know, like actually good. Even though it isn't great, it's still a massive improvement over the original. Initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 1 turn. It's going to give you 50% heal every other turn. In Faction Assault, again, more survivability for that team. While your team's getting healed by 35% on the Adrenaline Rush, this will come in. So some turns they'll get healed by 85%, which is, like I say, pretty nice indeed. Now, Hershel, of course, has some Mythic Abilities. These are his passive skills. He is a medic, so he will have Spirit, where 20% of all healing performed by this fighter also granted as bonus HP. That works on the heal over time on his Adrenaline Rush and obviously the Sinich move, but on the first turn he doesn't really heal anybody, so it actually has to be HP healed, not potential HP. So, you know, on the first turn it's not going to do anything really there. The next one is called Job Satisfaction. At the start of each turn, 100% chance this fighter gets plus 50% defense for each teammate with a heal over time status effect for one turn. This is kind of interesting. This does mean once he gets that Adrenaline Rush off, he's pretty much going to have a 200% defense buff for the rest of combat as long as all of his teammates are alive. Like I say, it's reasonably interesting. In Faction Assault, it could be decent. I'm not sure about so much in like a defense situation, like defense team. The next one is called Hunting Party. Before this fighter performs their specialist skill, heal all teammates by 30% of their max HP, and all teammates get 30% bonus HP. This is really nice, especially on auto on Faction Assault. The specialist skill he's got on his original version was just going to be, you know, an impair, and if it procs, you're going to have nice bonus HP and heal. But now it actually has been improved, and I will say it has a much bigger window to actually occur, which is nice, and it can occur on the rush, it can occur on the signature move, and it can occur on his basic attacks. So this should happen quite a lot. This is easily the best part of Hershel's kit in terms of survivability for that Faction Assault team, and potentially on those difficult road maps where Atlanta, again, is not the best faction to use there, he's going to add quite a lot of survivability. The next one is called Heal Reduction Resistance. Pretty straightforward. He has 100% heal reduction resistance. It's pretty much as simple as that. It only works for him though, so only the heals that he would receive would be, you know, always received. That's just the way it is. Unless he gets control rolled heal reduction, then this would get reduced down to 60%, which is still pretty reasonable though. Now, if we compare these passives to the originals, you can see that Job Satisfaction would actually have 100% chance that this fighter gets 10% defense for one turn for each fighter on your team with a heal over time status effect. So the best it could get would be 40% defense. He's going to get more than that if only one character has heal over time, so it's obviously a big increase there. The next one, when killed, heal all teammates by 20% of their max HP, and all teammates get 20% bonus HP. This has been such a nice change. The when dying stuff is generally absolutely terrible. Doesn't work very well unless a full team is geared that way. Like, for instance, I think the full Typhoon team has that, and that is where it does work quite nicely. But an individual character, you can just leave them till last, not really that big a deal. But the proc on his special skill has made this very nice. The heal reduction resistance has been improved from 40% up to 100%. Obvious improvement. I wouldn't necessarily say 100% heal reduction is that big a deal. If you are mainly using Faction Assault, I don't think there is any heal reduction there. But if you maybe use them in some roadmaps, there potentially could be. Okay, so here we are on an attack team, and we are going to do the last defend action here. We're not going to do any attacks off of turn 1. The defense team is going to gain natural AP. Most teams are going to have first turn signature moves, just like Nor did here. You can see she just has over 50% of her max AP. 55 AP characters gaining 35 AP on a signature move is going to do that. And I will say the impair window for Neutralize 2 has been increased or decreased to 50% or more AP on a character. Means that when you attack them, it will proc the Neutralize. So if I attack the character, my team should get healed. You could see that Anniversary Maggie did get focused, and a little bit on Glenn and Hershel. But they'll also get some bonus HP. So we'll get the attack in. You saw the base heal come in on all the characters, plus the bonus HP. Plus, you can see that Nor is now impaired for 2 turns. This is going to happen on his Adrenaline Rush, his signature move, and his basic attacks. As long as an enemy has more than 50% max AP, this is going to be, like I say, the best part so far of the changes of Hershel's kit. Now, Hershel does have a brand new specialist skill. It is Neutralize 2. When this fighter attacks a human target that has 50% or more adrenaline, that target will be impaired for 2 turns. Impaired fighters cannot gain AP or use adrenaline rushes. Now, this is a big improvement over the original specialist skill that procced at 80% or higher AP and impaired an enemy for 1 turn. I do believe even that Neutralize did get a buff where it used to be 90% and it got reduced down to 80%, but now Neutralize 2 with 50% is really, really nice, because any defense team character that uses a signature move off of turn 1 will always have more than 50% AP. This means that you can impair them off of turn 2 100% of the time as long as they don't have impair resistance. Plus, that'll be impaired for 2 turns. It'll proc his passive, where it'll give bonus HP to your entire team minimum, but potentially heal them as well based on that passive. That part of his kit is nice. And it also is really good for Faction Assault. That does mean he has a better chance to control the enemy and keep them controlled. There is obviously resistances built into the Faction Assault boss, but that's just the way it is. But if you potentially did want to try and somehow use this guy on an attack team, this is pretty much the main part that he's going to be bringing to the table. His new specialist skill, the Survivability Edition in the kit. He could potentially hold the tough attacks weapon, so he could effectively be giving an attack buff to everybody. That, like I said, if he had better control on his rush and his signature move, where like the daze was maybe a line of enemies got dazed and the rush was a line of enemies got impaired, potentially this character would have some sort of usability. It was very close. It was very close, but I just don't think it's there, unfortunately. But you never know. Someone could come up with some crazy idea, but I very much doubt it. Faction Assault seems to be the destiny for Hershel, but he has been massively buffed where it should be much easier to get through. And if you are a free-to-play and you are struggling with that Atlanta Faction Assault survivability, in particular, this character is going to add so much for you. And if you do get or have got the tough weapon, the Eric's weapon, that has deep cuts in the 4th slot, he can hold it where he just applies hemorrhage to an enemy, and you can get through that boss much easier that way. Definitely improvements on Hershel. His overall kit has been massively buffed, but it's so close. Like, I could just see small things where it'll just make it slightly more usable in particular scenarios, but it is the way it is. Now, the last thing to check out is Hershel's attached weapon, and he does not have one. The weapon on the left-hand side, I don't think has actually been released as a weapon. I could be wrong. We haven't had like a Hershel rifle come out in the Mythic era. But if we have, let me know in the comments down below. But I'm pretty sure I'm correct there. But no weapon here again. I think this could potentially have been a miss. I think with very small adjustments to this character's kit, he could have actually been usable. Like I say, if he had impair on attack in the 3rd slot, deep cuts in the 4th slot, that would have been perfect for Faction Assault. It could have had reasonably decent usage, maybe on an attack team if he had also the control on the rush and the signature move. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. No war potential for Hershel by the looks of things. So that was a first look at Gold Mythic Awakened Hershel. And like I said, he just misses the mark for an attack team. I'm actually surprised he got that close, where I could actually see the potential with just small tweaks on what they've done to actually be usable, semi-usable on a war team. I couldn't imagine being here. I couldn't imagine being in this spot. Hershel was that bad. So with very small tweaks, control on the rush, control on the signature move, and an actual, like, maybe controlling weapon, just a bit more control. He just needs to add that. I think that's what he needed. Considering he has got a control specialist, that's what I kind of would have expected. It just is the way it is. It's unfortunate, but he's still going to be a drastic improvement over the original Hershel, and he's going to be very good for faction assault. Those faction assault runs should be a piece of cake if they aren't already. That's the issue you've got to really think about. If they already are very easy, is it worth going for Hershel because he's only going to make it a little bit easier? That's the debate you've got. There are obviously other rewards that you can get in the event. It's up to you what you want to go for, but it is a little bit unfortunate. Like I said, I just could see the potential there, but it just wasn't there. It's just the way it is. Do tell me your thoughts on Gold Mythic Awakened Hershel, though, in the comments down below. Thank you very much for tuning into my video, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.